Well, aloha. Brothers and sisters, with that kind of an introduction, there's no pressure here, is there? Not a bit. I want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I am standing at this pulpit not alone. My wife is linked in. Now, what Brother Richie didn't say is she wasn't able to be here today. We've got a handicapped son at home, and so part of our daily routine is somebody's got to watch that little kid, make sure that everything's smooth and good. So Patty, my wife, is right here. Everybody see that? Everybody say aloha, Patty. Aloha. You there, baby? Say that again. Aloha. No, Patty, you say aloha again. Yeah, she's talking. All right. Let's see. This is an important time. Let's see, we've got what? I'm looking at the clock back there. You guys need to be out of here probably in about 30 minutes, right? So I need to give you the points that I need to make in about 15, 20 minutes. I'm time managing here. Give some time for some question and answers. Love to have that so then we can kind of make this real world. So I've taken the steps to write down my talk. And we're going to go through it here, okay? Ready? Good morning. Brothers. Want me to speed up? And sisters. Am I making you nervous? Just a little bit. He's looking at me. All right. Enough of the shtick. What I'm trying to convey to you is you've got to have a presentation that's going to be able to capture their attention. In my line of work, I am a drug rep. I sell pharmaceuticals to a very sophisticated and highly intelligent audience. So my job is to go to the doctors. Anybody here have a parent that's a doctor? Okay. Yeah. So what do they have to say about drug reps? Be nice. Okay.
We got 3 baseball games.
Did you? That was a while back. Okay. What my job is to go to his mom and dad, their folks, and to tell them about the positive aspects of my medicine. Now, it's not like the doctors don't already know about how to prescribe a medicine, but market research has shown that if they don't hear about my Celebrex, if they don't hear about my Humalog, the doctors will begin to think, yeah, I haven't seen Mark in a while. There must be something wrong with that medicine, so maybe I need to look elsewhere for this type of therapy. So my job is to go to them and to remind them about the positive influences and effects of my medicine. But the problem that I run up against is they have a very short attention span. Highly intelligent, very task-oriented, and they have a very short attention span. If I can't get my message out to them by the time that they sign their name for the medicine, son, I'm toast, okay? So if I'm going to make my point with them, I've got to be able to get my message in a very succinct, understandable, interesting way, with the hope that when I get done giving them my sound bite, that they'll buy into it and ask me a question. Now, how does that apply to students? That's a problem. The way that we're going to apply it here is in a functional way. I assume that as college students, you understand about the sales dynamic. You understand about being able to put on a happy face and being in front of people, be personable, get the buy-in by having participation, just like I tried to do at the first of the talk. I smiled, I got you guys laughing, I introduced my wife, so you're buying into me. That's all part of the sales presentation, is to have buy-in. Because you're establishing a rapport. That all makes sense, I assume. A lot of return missionaries here, I would assume. And, okay, good. And for that experience, you know that you want to have buy-in, you want to have participation from the person you're talking to. Now, time out. When you go for your first job interview after you graduate, your impression that you make on the interview is going to be pretty much summed up in the first 30 seconds. You have either made it or you're toast in the first 30, 45 seconds. So why do they take a 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute deal? Well, they're either reinforcing what they think about you, or you have a very narrow window of opportunity to change their mind because you stumbled on the way out of the starting gate. So my point is that the first 30, 45 seconds, very important. That's why you put on the suit and tie. That's why you comb your hair. That's why you greet them with a firm handshake, so that you have at least that much going for you during that first initial period where they're drawing their assessment. Now, what I want to do, though, is take you into a realm that perhaps you haven't thought of. And that is a responsibility that you have as the salesperson to convey the correct message. And I've got a couple of case scenarios from my own life that I can use to make the point. Of all the models that I have ever read regarding the sales dynamic, the pitch, the return, and the follow-up questions for clarification, the one thing that I haven't seen written is a very important component that I'll tell you about, easy to understand, but that you should employ, and that is, let me put it to you in the form of a question. First of all, do the hands raise? Does your hands work? All right, on the count of three, I want everybody to raise their hands. 1, 2, 3. Okay, they work. All right, so as I ask the question, if you feel so inclined, get in on this, because I'm just a guy up here pitching an idea, and let's see if we get some buy-in. Question, ready? Whose responsibility is it? Whose responsibility is it to convey a message? Okay, I'm getting some whispers. I'm going to develop it further, then I'm going to ask for the hands. Whose responsibility is it to convey the message? All right, now let me take it a step further. Whose responsibility is it for understanding? Now I want some hands. Whose responsibility is it to convey the message and then to make sure that you have understanding? What do you think? I've got one hand, I've got two. I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I got my 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Give me sound bites because we don't have a lot of time. Go. Real loud, and I'll repeat it. Did you raise your hand? He's looking at me like I'm from Mars. Come on, talk to me. Here's the question. Whose responsibility is it to convey the message and then have understanding? Like, you talking to me? Okay.
It's very important for you to make it understandable for those people.
Okay.
Because if they're there and they still know what you're talking about, they're scared of what's wasting my time.
All right, so he says it's my job to make it understandable. Is that what you have to say? You want to say it in different words? Say it again. Professor's job? Okay. You just got enough. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. Who else wants in on this? Did I spook everybody? You guys are fading on me. So I'm going to go 3 and then 4. 3, go. She says it's both. Both have a responsibility to key into the message. Your thoughts?
I think it's exactly what you're doing. You're asking questions so that we're paying attention.
Okay.
They're going to understand, you're keeping them aware of your message.
Pretty savvy guy. And that's a technique. You ask questions. He said, I think it's both, and I think that he's talking to me, are doing that by asking questions to have us buy into it, and that's correct. Here's my bottom line is the responsibility of message is the part of the sender. So if you're trying to convey a message to somebody who may or may not want to listen to you, like in my case, I'm going to a doctor. Listen, time out. I just saw the guy 3 weeks ago. I see the same customers time after time after time. It's like, hey, Mark, how you doing? What do you got? You got some Celebrex for me today? Yeah, I do. What, anything new? No. Where do I sign? Right here. Thank you, doctor. And I leave. That's a lost sales opportunity. He needs to hear something positive and hopeful about the medicine. Doctor, for the HMSA coverage, if the guy's fat and old like I am, the tier 2 copay is like $10. Oh, really? See, I got to buy in. See, you always have to have something to say to them. So my point on this little part here is it's your responsibility as the sender, okay? I'm calling it the sender. It's your job to make sure that they understand what you're trying to say. You can't bow up on them, which is Texas talk for getting an attitude, and say, well, they're not going to listen to me. If they're not going to make the effort to understand, then I'll pack up and go down the road. You can't say that, because if you do get that kind of an attitude, you won't get the job. If you do get that attitude, you won't make your sales quotas. So if you keep in mind that the responsibility for the sending of the message and the interpretation, the correct interpretation is yours, then you're going to do everything that you can to make sure that your messaging is on target. Would you say the same, all right, you've got a message, would you say it the same way to an adult compared to a child? Right. Would you say it the same way if you're conveying a thought to Brother Richie compared to somebody on the beach that you're surfing with? No. You would tailor the impact to the audience, and that's my point. So here's the first case scenario, and this is going to be kind of cloaked, so this is not going to be spoon-fed. Here's the deal. Years ago, I was put into an elders quorum presidency that we had. I'm thinking here. We had 4 active members, and the 4 active members that came to elders quorum consisted of the quorum presidency. So that's like what? 3? Yeah. Well, 4 if you count the secretary. So that was our elders quorum activity. We had 30 on the rolls. So we noodled around, thought about what we could do to bring that about. Now, this isn't about what you think it is. I have a surprise for you that I want you to think through about message conveying. So we came up with the idea that if we walked the streets of our ward boundaries and visited those elders that didn't make it to priesthood because it was 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, they were there by sacrament meeting when they woke up, but they weren't there at 8 o'clock. All right, so we had this idea that if we walked the boundaries of the ward and visited them after the meetings, first part of the week, that they would get the message that if you don't come, we're coming after you, right? Okay, and what do you think the reception was when we showed up on the doorstep? Okay, think that through for a moment. Sure, there'd be some politeness. But we began to get some pushback because our message wasn't being received the way we thought it. We thought, hey, by virtue of the fact that I'm the elders quorum president, I got my posse with me, and we're showing up on the doorstep, that there would be warm hugs all around, right? Hey, I'm doing my church thing, give me a break. But there was some pushback. Anybody want to hazard a guess? Because this is a case scenario about you being able to understand whether or not they're getting it, and if they're not getting it, you need to back up and retool. This is a case study on that. Where do you think the problem was? Okay, I've got 1. Who else wants in on this? I got 1. Come on. Females, get in on this because this is going to resonate with you because it happens to be what the wives were thinking. So I got 1, I got 2, I got a female 3, I got a guy behind her in a red shirt 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, go. What do you think?
When you have a frontal approach.
Frontal approach, okay.
Customers or anybody else who's seeing them will always have a defense foot.
All right.
So you have to approach it at an angle or either make them comfortable by either your conversation or by what you're messaging.
Good point. All right. I like that. Who was number 2? Who did I go to? Over there. All right. Frontal approach is what he said. You gotta angle your approach to be a little more gentle. Putting words in your mouth? Okay, go. Number 2. Okay. But I'm a nice guy. All right. He said, you show up at my doorstep, I'm going to be offended. Okay. All right. Female perspective. Go.
They probably aren't coming for a specific reason, and maybe that has something to do with the approach of the directness, maybe.
Okay.
And also, it could be a little bit condescending to be like, "Good morning,"
Yeah.
And they're probably, probably the same age, and maybe.
Okay. Yeah, we were the same age, and yeah, here we are. We're on your doorstep, and there's no softening that message. Okay. Thank you for that. Number 4, and number 5. Go. You're 4.
To me, it shows maybe that they would have thought that you're not understanding them.
All right. So there's an issue of understanding. Okay. These are all sensitive and thoughtful. It's not it. Last chance. Number 5. Who's number 5 back there? Real loud.
Yeah, you don't want to just go right after them and just deliver your message today. We want you to come back to church. You want to start off a little soft and get to know them and be a little social with them. And that's what I would recommend. Just start preaching to their face.
All right. Time out. You guys have all missed it. Love it. Don't be sad, but here's the deal. Remember, these guys are active. They showed up by the time sacrament being rolled around, they're there. It's just, hey, I got kids to get ready and shovel out the door. Here's what the pushback was. When we showed up on the doorstep, Sure, there were smiles, but the pushback we got, which is a nice way of saying it wasn't being received very well, was the fact that when the wife saw 4 people standing on the doorstep pouncing on her and her house that may or may not be in tip-top shape, she stressed. Okay, the meter went all the way over to 10. She stressed, like, you guys didn't call before you came over? Somebody's laughing, you must be married. You didn't call? All right, so our message was not well received based on the fact that they thought there was going to be now an encroachment upon private time. So what we did was we retooled our message. And that retooling is not necessary to go into detail here, but basically, we stayed on the doorstep. We made it a 30-second soundbite pitch. Love you. We need to have you there in the early morning if there's anything we could do. Blah, blah, blah. But we stayed on the doorstep. We respected their privacy. Does that make sense? So my point here is not to empower you elders quorum presence about activation. My point here is they weren't getting our message. They were getting the wrong message, and we had to fix it. Okay? And we had to fix that. All right, so any thoughts on that? Okay. Any thoughts? I got one. Anybody else want to buy in on this? Okay, fire away.
I think we have to understand the culture.
You-
Because I served my mission in Mexico.
Yeah.
I don't understand how people were doing. Well, when I went to Canada and I had the missionaries, I said, let's go to start by the members. And it's like, no, we have to call. So maybe understand the culture and background we have.
All right, his point was understand the culture. And again, that's all mechanically good. My point is, as the sender, it's your job to know how the impact is going. That's my point. Okay, so as the salesperson who's making a pitch, you have to do more than put it up there for them to receive. You've got to be able to assess whether or not there's a connection. Okay? You've got to make sure that the message sent is the message that they're receiving. All right. Let's go to another case scenario. Let me think of an idea that might have some meaning to you. All right, so I think that we've got the idea put down that the message sent is what you have to make sure that they've received because that's an important buy-in. The other thing that is important for you as a salesman when you sell yourself is the ability to connect with the person that you're talking to, the receiver, and make sure that that they're with you on the points that you're putting out there for them. So, for example, if you were to let's say this, you assign a 10-10 scale to the importance of your message. 10 meaning, I think this is really important. Okay, I really feel important. And another 10 as to how strong you're going to follow through on it. So here's a case in point. We all know that, to use a church example, that home teaching is really important, right? So I give that a 10. But what are you going to do about it? I don't know. See me at the end of the month and I'll let you know how it turns out. Or if I were to say it another way, I feel that a healthy diet and nutrition, very important, right? So a healthy diet is very important to good nutrition, good health, and I give that a what? 8, 9, or 10? Yep, that's important. What are you going to do about it? I don't know. Maybe when I get done with my breakfast, I'll think about it. All right, so there's a disconnect there. So one of the ways to put value into your message is to assign a number to it. I really feel that this is important, doctor. This medicine, for example, I had a medicine that helped type 2 diabetes get better. For years, doctors didn't buy into the fact that this type of medicine did any good. It was interesting that they opted to have a medicine that was more convenient than one that was more effective because they got pushback from the patient. The patient would begin to whine to them, oh, I don't want to stick myself twice a day, I don't want to do that. And rather than put the time in necessary to convince the patient that this was good for their health, doctors typically will go the route of least resistance. And that was, okay, so if it's a choice between 2 injections a day versus 1 injection a day that's not quite as effective, and I don't have to spend a lot of time talking them into it, I'm going to go with 1 injection because they'll do 1 injection, they're not going to do 2, blah, blah, blah. Blah. So typically what we found is, doctor, what is your medicine of choice for this particular condition? Oh, I do the once a day. Were you aware that recent studies find that 2 injections are better? Yeah, I know, but my patients aren't going to do 2. They're just going to do 1. And I don't have the time to convince them about something that they're not going to do anyway. Interesting, isn't it? So that's why I come back to assign it a 10-10. When I did that for a doctor, he was able to really get the fact that this is important. It's more than just a matter of convenience to have compliance, doctor. This is really important because we ran down that road of reasoning, and he understood that they were going to blow a kidney, in 20 years if they didn't do the right medicine for the right period of time. So that's my point, is the message responsibility is you. You can't get an attitude and say, well, it's your responsibility to hear what I'm saying, and it's your responsibility to understand what I'm saying, so I'm going to get an attitude and not try any harder. That flies right in the face of anything that's marketed in this world, right? If you look at anything that's on the television for marketing, they spend hours and hours trying to figure out an angle, a way, an entry into your thoughts so that they can make it palatable to you. And I think that's what Brother Richie really wants you folks to understand, is that no matter if you're going to be an engineer, or if you're going to be a pharmacist, or if you're going to be in some type of techno major that you're going to be sequestered in the back room, not have to interact with anybody, you're still going to have to be able to sell yourself to get the job. And if you are out in front of the public, you need to be able to portray that in a way that's going to be understandable to those that you're talking to, understandable and have impact. So that's the gist of what I had to say. And for the interest of having impact, then let me ask if you guys have any questions or thoughts about being a salesman out there and having influence that I can respond to, because that's basically all that I can offer to you. Is message, make sure there's impact, that they're getting the right thing. Then if you want to have a number that's assigned to it, you can put a number value as far as importance. So any thoughts? All right, then, okay, almost got out of here without anything. I got 1, I got 2, do I hear 3? All right, I got 4. All right, this is good. All right, so real loud about sales. 1, go ahead. Oh, good question. His question was, what are some examples that I did in order to get jobs? It's a good question because I'm a contractor. And what that means is, gone are the days where you put in 40 years and you get your gold watch at the end of it for loyal service. I'm a contractor, which means that every year or two, I'm out there vying for a position, just like you guys are. Now, what I can't bring to the table is youth. That's you. But what I can bring to the table is experience. That's me. So if the company is looking to outgun their competition by having a youthful, strong, focused, energetic workforce, that ain't me. But if the company wants to convey a sense of dignity, strength, insight, savvy, hopefully that's what I can convey, when I go to the doctor. So to answer your question, I play to my strengths. I'm obviously not young, but I can play to my strengths, which are, Mr. Interviewer, I've got 25 years in the business. I understand the ebb and flow of pharmaceutical trade. I understand what doctors need to hear and what they don't want to see in an office. I'm sensitive to the 5 cultural subcultures here in Hawaii. I know how to move in an office and be invisible, only seen when I'm asked to be seen. And what that means to you, there's a key phrase for you, what that means to you as my manager is, I will have impact. I will move sales. Oh, really? Well, how do you know that? Oh, I have a track record. I'm nationally ranked right now for sales. I've been appointed to advisory boards. So I can do what you hope I can do. So does that answer your question? You play to your strengths, and you be very clear about what it is. And then you check for impact. Like I said before. So, Mr. Interviewer, does that make sense to you? Yeah, I think it does. So you check for impact to make sure that what I'm saying is what he's understanding. Okay, so that was one good question. Number two, who was number two? I got two. Who's number three? Get in the queue. All right, you're three. You're on deck. Who's number four? All right, number four's back there. 4, 5. Okay, so you're up and you're on deck, and you're up too. Okay, go.
What do you do when you're forced to sell a product that you might not believe in?
Like what?
Well, I don't know. I mean, in your profession, but you know how, like, when you work for a company and your boss says, I need you to go sell this to these people, you think, boy, I don't even think this product's very good for myself.
Okay. You lie to him and say, okay, then you don't go. I don't know. No. For me, I have had the opportunity and I didn't take the job. So if it conflicts, so you're hearing it here first, folks. If the sales product is conflicting with your values, which we probably all share similar values, you don't do it. I had contact. Did it ever happen to me? Yeah, I had contact from a surgical company to market. They wanted me, because I have OR experience, they wanted me to market a certain type of surgical device. And I couldn't. And I just said, thanks, but I can't. And you know what her response to me was? You and others like you. I thought that was odd. What that told me was what? I had a problem with what she wanted me to market. Was I the only one? Nah. It's okay. You know what? Define your core values and stay with it, because at some point in the work scenario, you're going to have to ask for help. Not to get over on your competition, but I'm struggling here with product knowledge. Dr. So-and-so's office, they don't like me. What'd I do? You're going to have to ask for help. So you want to be able to ask for help. All right, number 3. Where was it? Dr. Sun. Okay, go.
What kind of schooling did you go through to be able to be in the position that you're in now?
What kind of schooling did I go through to be able to be a drug rep and a surgical rep? Real easy. I got a BA in business. And anymore, they want a BA, maybe a BS in business. That's the minimum qualifications, is to get a 4-year degree. Now, the trick is, if you're going up in competition against 3 other people that have similar experience, and they're all just as likable as you are, they all have missionary experience like you do, which is not churchy so much as it is, so you've been out in the real world for 2 years or a year and a half. Oh, okay, then that has some weight. So where I'm going with this is, yeah, you get a 4-year degree, but you size up the competition, because the other candidate has a 4-year degree as well. But they also have a degree in science. Okay. Okay, so I need to ramp up a little bit and make this happen. So does that make sense? So yeah, I've got a 4-year degree, but you have to make sure that you've got a leading edge on there, if that makes sense. All right, who's next? Who's number 3? Who's on? You're not number 3, but I'll take you. Who was on deck? All right, I'm coming back to you, and then you. All right, go. You're here.
Okay, I do have a question as far as with deaf people. How can they sell themselves with having an interpreter in there? Since I don't speak, my language is in sign language, and I also don't listen. So how can I get that message across and they receive the same message?
Man, this is tough. You put me on the spot. The brother down here says, I don't speak, I'm deaf. And how am I going to convey myself to the interviewer? First, pick an industry where you can excel. You will not be hired, this is going to sound rough, you're not going to be hired at a radio station. Okay? See, he's smiling, he got it. It's okay, you can laugh, he got it. So pick an industry where you can excel. Perhaps pick an industry where you can really stand out. You want to be in sales, but you have a handicap? I would go to the industry where you are empowered. Where would that be? Cochlear implants? Hearing aid devices? Books that help disabilities? So I would pick an industry where I can excel. And then I would be as confident about my disability that would dispel any kind of worries that as an interviewer I might have. Is he shy about it? Is he backward about his inability to speak? You know, am I going to have to be caring for you to bring you along? I don't know if I'm in that position. Because I've got another guy who's deaf and he's dynamic. So, you know, you have a lot to offer. And because I'm the father of handicapped kids, I can say this, overcoming adversity is a plus. Okay? In my book. Anybody else is about to talk to. All right. Boom, boom, right? Okay, so way back there in front of Brother Richie, real loud. And we've got about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, this was just real quick. I was wondering if you could review again and maybe give a few examples of how you assign importance.
How I assign what?
Value of importance.
Oh, sure. His question was regarding my point, and I made this up, guys. I don't know if you'll ever read this anyplace, but, you know, assigning a value of importance to your message. Your question is, how do I do that, right? Well, it's empirical, which is a nice way of saying I shoot from the hip. What are the ramifications? What are what's the take home at the end of the day if they do or if they don't get it? So just assign a number to your message so that you know how important it is. And there's no rule book. There's no set formula to it. It's just my way of trying to assign to your message a degree of importance. You know, is this going to change the world? Are we talking about something that's earth-shaking, or is it something that you can talk about in the grocery store line? So it's empirical, and don't let it become any more complicated than that. You got something to say? Say it. How important is it? It's a 7. It's a 7. Okay, in terms of what? In terms of whatever. So it's easy. I'm just trying to get you guys thinking about that. All right, okay, go. Who's next? Go.
What are some things you do, like on a daily basis or frequently, that help you stay on top of your game or
Okay.
stay sharp in your industry?
Perfect. He said, what do you do on a daily basis that keeps you sharp on top of your game? There is a rule in industry. Read 15 minutes minimum. 15 minutes every day in your discipline. Okay? Now, I'll give you a story from Henry B. Eyring. He was struggling with school. Now, I went to Ricks College back when President Eyring was President Eyring of Ricks College. And he had just gotten out of the Air Force. He was an officer in nuclear warfare. And so when he gave this talk, it struck home to me. His dad, you guys know who his dad was, right? Professor Eyring at Princeton. He probably should have gotten the Nobel for his work in chemistry because his foundational work is still what they use today to make new advancements and discoveries. Bottom line is this, he tells the story on himself in the following way. I was struggling with chemistry and physics. And I had asked my dad for some help, and he gave it to me. A week later, I asked him to reiterate what we had just talked about a week before, and his response to me surprised me. He said, "How? You're still thinking about that? Don't you know that you're going up in competition with other students that have already mastered that? I mean, they got it down, and you're still kicking it around? How are you going to compete with somebody who mastered it by way of whatever they did, reading journals, thinking it through, making connections?" So his point was, from his dad, you know what, you got to ramp it up, buddy. You got to take it to the next step. So in response to your question, which was good, how do you stay sharp? 15 minutes minimum every day about your stuff, and then you'll stay current. Now, for me as a drug rep, they kind of spoon feed me. They tell me what studies to read. They also, because of FDA regulations, they tell me what I can and what I cannot say. So, in that regard, I'm protected. But for you out in the real world, just read up on your stuff. Like, for example, let's pick a hobby. Who here does skateboarding? Okay. Can you tell me what what kind of wheels are the best wheels for concrete? Yeah, okay. I'm getting buy-in on this. All right, so can you tell me how long a board needs to be in order to have proper balance if you're going down a little steep hill? Like if I wanted to buy a board, can you tell me that? Okay, I'm getting some nods. My point is, that's something that you understand, you get, you like, and you're up on it. Do the same thing with your professional career. Read trade journals, be up on it, be savvy, be smart. And the reason why is because I go up against sales reps all the time that sell against my stuff. If they're smarter than I am, I lose. If a doctor says, what about ABCD? I heard this about your medicine. And I say, I don't know, it's a new one on me. I lose credibility. And he's not going to prescribe it until I get back to him with a good answer. And by then, it's too late anyway. I need to be able to respond quickly, with authority, with clarity. So read your stuff. All right, gang, are we about done? Time for one more? It's pushing 10 till. How are we doing? All right, I've got 2. So give me sound bites and we'll get to both of them.
So, kind of in response to the brother in front as well, would you agree that, I mean, the message and those things are kind of an easier thing, everyone can kind of get that down,
Right?
but that really what makes the difference between one person and another is their personality and the way they carry them. It's the things that they don't actually say that really get someone, like you said, in the first 30 to 45 seconds, you make or break it.
Right.
There's only so much you can say in that time. So it's really the way that you convey the way you feel about it.
I'm with you, and I'm glad you brought it up because it was something I wanted to touch on, so let me give you a sound bite here. He's talking about intangibles, right? Okay. Intangibles. How are you Mormon boys and girls going to bring out intangibles? I'm a nice guy, you know, I'm a whatever. I serve my mission. I'm from a nice family. How are you going to bring out those intangibles? Think about that while I go to number 2. Intangibles. How are you going to bring out those intangibles? This is really important. All right, your next question.
How do you present drugs to doctors that have serious side effects, and how do you get doctors to accept the responsibility of prescribing those drugs?
Okay, that's a mechanical question. How do I prescribe, or how do I get doctors to prescribe a medicine that's got really serious side effects? You don't, typically, but doctor, if the benefit to risk ratio is warranted, then you need to understand what the parameters of this medicine can do. A doctor is all about having empowerment. They're smart enough to know when to make a call that's chancy. If you look at it, on one hand, chemotherapy medicine is poison. Okay? It's poison. It's a very sophisticated poison. So is blood thinners for high blood pressure. That's poison. You want to know what kind of poison that is? Rat poison. You know where it came from? Germany. Okay? I'm not kidding you. You want to know what one of the nicest, most effective antibiotics was? It's a mold spore discovered in the sewers of Sicily. Okay? One of the most promising medicines for type 2 diabetes, I'll say it in a way that'll get your attention. It is iguana saliva. So I walked into a doctor one day and I said, "Doctor, I've got Bale." He said, "Oh yeah, you got more of that lizard spit, huh?" I said, "Yeah, well, if that's how you remember it, but here's the benefit aspect of Bale, lizard spit." So the bottom line is benefit to risk ratio. A doctor will prescribe a medicine that has some serious side effects if the alternative is something worse. All right, now, I'll wrap up with this. Intangibles. This is probably the most important thing that I could say, so I'm glad you brought that up because I would have felt bad in about an hour when I remembered that I forgot. Intangibles. Anybody here a non-member? Brave enough to admit it? Welcome guests, welcome guests, welcome guests. Of all the people that are in this congregation, you guys are the most important. You really are. Because if we don't live our religion, it's going to reflect negatively, and you're going to spook up and run away, and shame on us. So I'm glad that you're here. What I'm about to say applies as invitingly to you as it does anybody in this room. And that is the intangible that you bring to the interviewing table is the empowerment of your soul. Write that down. The intangible that you bring to the interviewing table is the empowerment of your soul. Now, this is what I mean by it. I'm going to check to make sure that my message was interpreted correctly, right? See what the buy-in is. That empowerment of your soul comes by way of practicing moral behavior. Have you ever heard it said of an individual, hey, gee, I don't know. There's just something about that guy that I like. Right with you, hang on. There's just something about that guy I like. You know, there's something about this guy down here who's deaf. I like him. You know why? He's right out there in the front. There's a candor about him that personally I can relate to. I know I'm not going to get surprised. So the empowerment of your soul is brought about by practicing moral behavior. All things being equal, you're one of 5 people that I'm interviewing today for a particular job. The intangible that I'm going to remember is something that probably is conveyed by the empowerment of your soul. So don't spook the deal by wearing something stupid. Don't spook the deal by having too many pierced earrings in your ear. Don't spook the deal by saying something silly. All right? Eliminate the silly things, the stupid things that you're tripping on. Eliminate those. You don't stand a chance. And then respond positively, but the critical take-home is empower your soul, because I don't care who's interviewing you, whether they're in the church or out of the church, they're smart enough to be able to pick up on that. You had a thought, and then I'm going to wrap up.
I was gonna ask you to do something that you did, so.
Okay. So you were going to ask me something I already responded to? Good. Okay. All right, brothers and sisters, it's time to go. Thanks for being here, and we'll take it from there. Brother Richie, you're up.